Hello everyone, welcome back. Tom with Capo Fetish. Today we're going to talk about anticlimactic tracks on great albums. Tracks that end an album on a weird vibe or just doesn't feel complete. I'm going to delve into that right now with 10 of these selections. First selection here I've chosen is Aftermath by the Rolling Stones. One of their great mid-60s albums, just really solid. This is the US version, not the UK version. So this is the one I grew up with. So side one on the US version, you've got Painted Black, Stupid Girl, Lady Jane, Under My Thumb, Don't You Bother Me, and Think. Great, solid side one. Side two starts off with Flight 505, High and Dry, It's Not Easy, and I Am Waiting. Really good. And then the last track, Going Home, kicks in. It's pretty cool, rolls along pretty good, really kind of atmospheric, slow blues, harmonica. But then after about 5 or 6 minutes in, and you're just kind of going, okay, it's not really going anywhere. It's just, it's filler. It's absolute filler. They kind of could have probably stopped it at the 5 or 4 minute mark, but they kept it going at 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So yeah, this is a prime example of an anticlimactic ending to a great album. Another one here is Led Zeppelin 3 from 1970. Really solid. A lot of people consider this their favorite Zepp album. Definitely has some great tracks on it. Side one is pretty solid all the way through. Side two starts that kind of acoustic vibe with Gallows Pole, Tangerine, That's the Way. And then the last track, hats off to Roy Harper, really ends it on a sour note for me personally. Never really understood why that track was on here and not something like Hey, Hey, What Can I Do, the B-side of the Immigrant Song. That would have fit perfectly on this album, but they chose to end it on a strange note. And in my opinion, very anticlimactic ending to a pretty damn good album. So Led Zeppelin 3, Hats Off to Roy Harper is the track. Another one is from 1980, and that is XTC's phenomenal Black Sea record. This is XTC at its most rocking, most upbeat, lively, etc. Just this is the last album they toured for. Great. There's some great live recordings of this tour, and this album, every track just gallops away at really good speed. I wouldn't even say gallop. It just kicks ass all the way through. Side one's fantastic. Side two's great until you get to that last song, Travels in Nylon. And it doesn't even sound like the rest of the record. It's just, I don't know. It always reminded me of maybe like a Killing Joke tune or something. It just doesn't fit in with the rest. It's just noise, a barrage of drums and noise. You guys might have a different opinion, but I've never liked that track. Sometimes when I used to make mixtapes, I would record this whole album and then put the outtake, Don't Lose Your Temper, ending the record instead of Travels in Nylon. So yeah, that's another one to me that was really anticlimactic for a really great record. Another one is Neil Young's debut album, which I think is really underrated. I think it's kind of overshadowed by the next 2 or 3 albums he did, like Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere and After the Gold Rush. But there are just some kick-ass songs on here. Both sides bookended with really cool little instrumentals. But then in between, you've got great tracks like The Loner, If I Could Have Her Tonight, I've Been Waiting for You, The Old Laughing Lady. And you have Here We Are in the Years, What Did You Do to My Life, and I've Loved Her So Long. All just fantastic Neil Young songs. And then you've got a 9-minute, 25-second song that ends the album called Last Trip to Tulsa. Really just, talk about meandering, just goes nowhere. Just feels like filler to me, and a really disappointing ending to the album, but the rest of the album is great. Another one too, on the UK version of the Jam's Setting Suns from 1979, they end the album with the song Heatwave, the Holland Dozier Holland song. And it doesn't even make sense because the rest of the album, this is probably my favorite Jam album. It has just a plethora of great written songs by Paul Weller. But their version, side one, starts on the US version, side one. Basically, the US version came out and switched sides. So side two is now side one is two, etc. But so yeah, I never understood why the UK version had ended the album with Heatwave. It's so anticlimactic. And but the US version, which this one is, switched the sides, so it makes much more sense, starting off with Burning Sky. It does still have Heatwave at the end of side one, and side two is flawless. So yeah, another kind of oddity as far as weird endings to albums. Another one too, a lot of people are kind of divided about this album. I love this album. I think it's a great psychedelic folk classic, just twisted, strange album by Skip Spence, who was in Moby Grape. The album is called Ore. Really great little ditties. There's 12 songs on the original album. It starts off with the song Little Hands, and there's really cool songs on here like Book of Moses. And then all the songs are like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, even like 1 minute 50. Then you get to the last track, and it's obviously just filler. It's called Afro Gray, or is it Gray Afro? Gray Afro, Gray/Afro. And it really ends the album on a bummer. It's just noise. It's not even noise. It's just him kind of hooting and hollering in the background against some drums, and it just doesn't go anywhere. And another bad ending to a great album. Another one too. Always love this album by Simon and Garfunkel. Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. But that last track on here is such a bummer. 7 o'clock news, Silent Night. Now I know back in the day it probably meant something with what was going on in the world and everything, but just as a listen now, I just don't like it. The rest of the album has so many great songs. Scarborough Fair, Patterns, Cloudy, Homeward Bound, 59th Street Bridge Song, Dangling Conversation, but that last track, 7 o'clock news, Silent Night, just kind of ends it on a bummer. So that's another example. Another one I brought up many times, and I think this is probably one of the greatest sides of any 60s album. Absolutely solid, diverse, varied, and just pure genius. But damn, it sure ends on a bad note. It's basically all of side 2. The song is called Revelation. It's just a nowhere jam for about 17, 18 minutes. I know some people dig it, but it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the record. Those 6 songs on side 1, Stephanie Knows Who, Orange Skies, Que Vida, 7 and 7 is The Castle and She Comes in Colors, are just so well written and have such great instrumentation and the arrangements and everything. So Revelation to me is just kind of like, it's just a real bummer coming after that. So I kind of look at this album as more of like an EP. The whole first side is just a great, great EP. So love from their album Da Capo, the song Revelation, ending the album on a real bummer note. Another real, a really great album from 1968. A lot of people don't really know about or care about, it seems, is Lee Michaels' Recital album. This is his second solo album. Every song on here is just dynamite. Well written, great vocals, great harpsichord and Hammond B3 organ. Really, really great stuff, but it ends on this really bad 9-minute dirge of organ and harpsichord, and it is called Spare Change. And it just kind of doesn't go with the rest of the album. Just kind of, I wouldn't say it ruins the album, but you need to take the needle off before this album ends, basically. So Spare Change on Lee Michaels' album. Recital to me is a real kind of a letdown after the rest of the album. And then another one, I've held this one up quite a few times. I have to do it one more time for this particular subject, is the Beatles, and the song is Good Night. Now, people might say, well, what about Revolution 9 too? That doesn't really end the album on a high note either, coming right before Good Night. But if they had just maybe released the acoustic, more stripped down version that's on the Super Deluxe of the White Album here, released back in 2018, that really, I think, would have redeemed the ending of this album. This schmaltzy version that's on this album, I don't know whose idea that was, maybe George Martin. I can't believe Lennon actually allowed the schmaltz. But that's why I don't like the track, especially coming after Revolution 9. You want some kind of relief, right? You want some kind of uplifting vibe. And the version on Super Deluxe 2018 version of the White Album is really quite beautiful. It has all 4 of them singing with that kind of Dear Prudence finger picking going on. It's just really stripped down, just the guitar and George, John, Paul, and I think even Ringo singing on it. It's so good, and I don't know why they didn't just throw that on at the end and just kind of ended it on kind of a more earthy vibe, which this whole album really is, except for Revolution 9. It's kind of stripped back, way different than Sgt. Pepper, obviously, and all the songs are more of an earthy nature. So I always thought that Good Night was probably the worst ending to any Beatles album because of the schmaltz. You may have a different opinion, but that was just mine. And that's 10 examples, folks, of anticlimactic endings to great albums. If you have any, list them in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.